and rapid response. And in the CNMI, that's where we find our Tomas Manglona with the latest. Tomas.
Good morning, Bree and Chris. Here's the latest in the CNMI with containing COVID-19. As the CNMI is set to open tourism in about 1 month, CNMI Governor Ralph Torres provides an update to media in a briefing yesterday. He explained that the possible protocol for tourism is and what markets the island is returning to. He says that community-based testing will be the threshold and ultimately the metric that they'll be paying attention to, also considering tourists getting tested in their own country of origin before arriving into the CNMI, and if not, getting tested at the Saipan airport upon arrival. They're weighing different options and will plan to release those plans to the community in the coming weeks. And some environmental news, BECQ to strictly enforce CNMI litter control laws during COVID-19 pandemic. The Bureau of Environmental and Coastal Quality here in the CNMI announces that they will provide additional enforcement in the coming weeks of the CNMI litter control law during the COVID-19 pandemic. And they also add that they're going to impose penalties on violators provided under the law. BECQ notes that they've observed an increased amount of trash and debris on remote beaches and sites located on the east side of Saipan over the last several weeks. BECQ Administrator Eli Cabrera says that it's pleading to the community to please clean up before and after utilizing a beach site. And news from the governor's office, Governor Ralph de Leon Guerrero Torres and Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios recently appointed Robert Hunter to serve as Senior Policy Advisor for the Office of the Governor amid the pandemic. And they write that prior to this new position, Hunter formerly served as the Secretary of the Department of Community and Cultural Affairs, DCCA, where he led efforts to quadruple federal assistance for child and family services, as well as art and cultural programs for the community. This new appointment comes amid some questioning about the funding for the position. And Governor Torres in that press briefing yesterday says that Governor Torres notes that federal funding will be used to cover this position, and that was also stated in the press release yesterday. Hunter will oversee DCCA and until an acting secretary is designated. And back to the governor's office, the community-based testing that we talked about with regards to tourism is something that he addressed at a media briefing yesterday. KUAM asked him to explain some of the possibilities for tourism to reopen in about 1 month. Take a listen to this clip from the briefing yesterday.
Public health, and of course our tourism with the MVA, Priscilla Aikopo, as well as the Governor's Economic Council. Those are questions that yet to be answered. We are working on with our tourist partners in Korea and in Japan. We're also cognizant that each country have their own quarantine regulation. So we are working diligently in addressing those concerns. We also know that that we are reopening CNMI. We have started that, and we are looking at our community-based testing as the threshold on how do we move forward on opening CNMI. We do have test kits more than enough for our residents here. That is something that is still in consultation and discussion. How do we address our tourism market? And preferably if they can get tested in where they're coming from before they depart, and that's something that we can accept here in our healthcare, then that's something that a serious discussion between two countries or us in the CNMI and the respective tourism market. If not, then we need to find a protocol to our tourist industry, whether to get tested at the airport or take them to the hotel and get tested at the hotel.
And here are the latest numbers from CHCC, from the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation's website. The number of total confirmed COVID-19 cases remains at 23 in the Commonwealth. The number of persons released from quarantine is now at 564. Of the 23 total cases we mentioned, that includes 2 deaths and now 16 recoveries. And some updated numbers out of testing from the community program here in the Marianas. 5,832 people on Saipan were tested, 349 on Tinian tested, and Rhoda has tested 376 people. Bring Chris, that's the latest here in the CNMI.
Thanks, Tomas. In national news, heightened security and peaceful demonstrators marked the scene in the nation's capital after the Minneapolis police involved death of George Floyd last week. Meanwhile, a top White House official is